Well, hello everyone. Greetings and blessings to you. I hope you're having a great day today, and I trust that you're believing that God's going to do great things in your life and in the life of your family all day long. Welcome to Tuesday's edition of Take 5. This week we're tackling a pretty big subject. If you were here Sunday, I think you understand what I'm talking about. This subject will really get you to thinking and making a self-inspection of your own spiritual life. We're dealing with the process of neglect. Now again, I'll tell you, like I told you yesterday, that doesn't refer to emotional or physical abuse or anything like that. This has everything to do with the idea of you neglecting your spiritual life, your walk with God, not maintaining that properly. That's what we're talking about, and it is a process. Your spiritual life doesn't fall apart overnight. It's a process of events that happen that if we would have checked them when we first sensed that there was something going wrong, when we first began to misstep just a little bit, if we'd have checked up on that thing, we might not get in the shape that some of us get in sometimes. So it is a process that doesn't happen overnight, and it is something, though, that we can avoid and we must avoid with extreme caution. Well, this concept of neglect, I think it's going to be bigger than what we thought it was going to be. Just defining it causes us to really stop and look at ourselves. 3 definitions for neglect. Number 1, to disregard in care or treatment of a thing. Number 2, to omit through indifference or carelessness. That means we don't look into it, we don't maintain it, we don't care about it in one way or the other. And definition number 3, to fail to carry out the necessary maintenance, which leads to decay and eventually destruction. And we understand that. We know that if we don't carry out maintenance in our home, that it will eventually lead to decay, and that will in turn lead to destruction. The same with your car, the same with anything. Everything needs maintenance. Everything at some point or other in its existence is going to have something minor go wrong in it. And if you don't check up on that one minor thing, that minor thing will turn into another minor thing and another minor thing and another minor thing. And that'll keep happening up until you have a major thing. And all of that happened through a process. It wasn't one event that broke it down. When you look at an old dilapidated rundown house, it wasn't one thing that caused it to happen. It was a lot of things that were left alone and neglected. Neglect can absolutely change the nature and the purpose of something so greatly that you don't even recognize it any more. You know, when you consider a crack house wasn't built to be a crack house. How did it become a crack house? How did that happen? There was never a contractor that's ever lived that says, hey, I believe I'll go build a crack house and let people sell drugs in it and people kill themselves in it. That's never happened. When you see a crack house, know this, that somewhere that thing has good history. Sometimes in the past, a loving, happy family lived there in that house. At some point, you could hear the pitter-patter of little feet running to the door when Daddy come home from work. How did this thing turn into a crack house? I tell you how, the process of neglect. Now, there were 2 social scientists in 1982 that began to call this process of neglect the broken window theory. This broken window theory, holds that a seemingly minor matter, like a broken window in buildings, will lead directly to more serious deterioration in neighborhoods. For instance, if someone comes along and sees a building with a window broken in it, they might be more likely to take a rock and throw it and break another window in that building, because it doesn't seem like anybody cares about it, because they've not fixed the window. One broken window leads to 2, 2 leads to 3, and the next thing you know, the whole building is run down, simply because it seemed like that Everyone had neglected it. It seemed like there was a sense of indifference, and it seemed as though there was a lack of concern about the building, and it just kept adding up. Neglect of anything will lead quickly to decay and then destruction. If you neglect your health, you know what'll happen. Your health will decay and then it will end up being destroyed. If you neglect your pets, they will decay and die. If you neglect your relationships, they will decay and die. And the same is true concerning your spiritual health and your spiritual relationship with God. If you do not keep a check on it, if you neglect it, it will decay and die. Let me tell you something. No one that has ever walked with God got lost with just one wrong step. It wasn't one wrong step that got them lost. It's many wrong steps that they continued making without ever taking the time to correct. No one ever backslides overnight. No one that's ever served God with red hot fervency turns ice cold overnight. No one that has ever attended faithfully the worship services of any church just overnight immediately decides that it's no longer necessary. It's a process of neglect. It's the little things that we allow to go unchecked in our life. You know, Solomon actually said in Ecclesiastes chapter 10 that a few dead flies will make even the best perfume stink. And in the same way, a little bit of foolishness can ruin a man that has much wisdom. Just a few dead flies can make this beautiful, precious perfume, can make it stink and smell atrocious. And all it took was some little things getting in there that were not strained out. Solomon also said in Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 15, that it's the little foxes that spoil the vine, the ones that can get under the fence, get through the fence in narrow places. It's the little foxes that spoil the vine. Notice it's not the giants that do it, it's the little ones that are allowed to go unchecked because we neglect them, because they seem so insignificant. But it's those little insignificant things that we neglect that over a period of time will be your ruin. Paul even said in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse number 6 to the church at Corinth, they were bragging because they thought they were so pious and they were so good. And Paul accused them and judged them for some vile sin that was going on there. And he said, your boasting is not good. He said, do you not know that just a little leaven will leaven the whole lump? A.W. Tozer said, the neglected heart will soon be a heart overrun with worldly thoughts, and the neglected life will soon become a moral chaos. Don't neglect the little things, my friend. Those are the things that will add up in your life, and they will turn into a major mess. Well, hey, I got to get out of here. It's been good being with you today. I look forward to being with you tomorrow on Wednesday's edition of Take 5. Until then, God bless you and have a great, great day.